Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the first animation analysis in like over a month now. I meant to be getting to these much more often, like at least doing one a month, two if I could. And there's just been a lot of issues with my process. For example, I use a Windows 11 now, unfortunately, and my tablet doesn't seem to want to work with it. So that's kind of partially why I had to adapt the style of how I do these videos for the last one, where I had like mostly post-production stuff going on to be able to talk and display on screen what I was explaining. And I'm gonna have to keep doing that because this thing is effectively dead and useless at the moment, and I may have to get a different one. But today we're actually going to be doing one on Zenless Zone Zero, which is a series I've obviously wanted to see more animation stuff from in general. I've seen some of the animations for Zenless and I think they're gorgeous. Just the character animation in the game alone is great. So this is the lighter character demo, and I don't know what to expect out of these. I've never seen a character demo for this game, so I can only imagine it's going to look fantastic. And the one who requested it to me is an active player of the game, and obviously I'll trust their opinion that this is a really good starting point just for sake of quality. And I guess without further ado, let's get to the reaction section and then talk about it, shall we? Let's go! I know this is really short too, but like, whoa, okay. Already starting with some amazing flame animations. That scarf is like hand animated too. Whoa, shoot. Oh my god. Okay. Whoa. Oh, there's already so many things to talk about. Oh god. I'm glad it's short. Whew. God, the character animation is so lively. It's just abusing the rules and regulations of animation. It's going crazy. This is gorgeous. Oh man, I love these stylized portions too. That's fantastic. Whew. Badass song too. Like, I'm not talking about the music today, but like that was a pretty sick song. The animation. Good lord, there's so much to talk about here. I'm really glad it's only about a minute and a half long because there are so many portions I want to break down frame by frame and explain here. So firstly, this custom lighter animation at the beginning is just plain beautiful. Every spark and flame is preparing you for the elegance of the character's fighting style that we see very soon after, and him flipping it around like a butterfly knife is a perfect additional detail to that. Focusing on his skill to manipulate items in his hands to such perfection perfectly summarizes the type of fighter he is and how he plans to take down these guys. It's just brilliant foreshadowing in general. Not to mention his scarf. This kind of reminds me of Doctor Strange's cape in the MCU, actually. Obviously his scarf isn't sentient like that cape, but it's animated with such a distinct purpose, almost like there's a constant wind flowing just within his radius, and it adds so much life to the scene. This utilizes the rule of animation known as secondary action or secondary animation. Basically, that just means that there's extra movement around the main subject. It just kind of adds life to a scene that could otherwise come off as boring, but is usually done by things like hair or accessories as the result of other motions. This scarf is cooler than that because, like I said earlier, it's almost acting as a secondary character in itself, and it isn't moving exclusively because of his movement or outside forces, really, like wind or something. This is more clear when we enter the black and white segments where it becomes like a flame and it's just like a fire. It has a life of its own, and that's a really neat detail there. There's loose control, but like fire, it has a bit of unpredictability, and it'll go in random directions like a flame wicks away from the source of fuel, so that's a really neat, consistent feature throughout the video. In all of those black and white sections, it has that going on, and every single time you really can't tell quite where it's going to end up, and that's just a really neat energy to add to a scene. Now, taking a look at this intro for the fight, I love the detail of the main gang member tearing apart the comic style intro as a form of disrespect. That's just kind of funny. It's a fun use of breaking the fourth wall and showcasing how cocky the guy is immediately, not to mention his absolute abuse of squash and stretch as he moves. Squash and stretch is abundant in the ZZZ animations that I've seen, even though that's only been a few, but this is like goofy levels of it, borderline excessive, but it works really well here because it's so goofy that you immediately know not to take these villains too seriously. Like, sure, they're bad, but like their movements are so extreme it taps the fourth wall a little bit like a pane of glass, just to hint to the viewer that they're not really a threat. There's even a moment where one of the grunts kind of trips while they're running into the fight and adds an even more Disney-esque goofiness to their personalities. The details in here are just immaculate. It even goes as far as breaking the model's bones multiple times just to make sure to take you out of the realm of believability while keeping momentum in each pose. And there's likewise a metric ton of overshoot, which is another rule of animation and usually goes hand in hand with squash and stretch. It just kind of gives the model the feeling of settling back into poses, and with characters this expressive and poses this dynamic, it's an absolute chef's kiss choice. It's worth noting as well that there are moments with the main character using this trick too, but they're matched with the cool factor, aka another rule of animation, appeal. While the villains have their own appeal in that goofiness, this guy just uses more showy, calculated movements like this spinning trick here to overcome the raw silliness of the villains, and it just makes him come off as more competent in general. He's not slipping or tripping, he's spinning and flowing. It's a completely different intent and charisma, which works well for us wanting to root for him. Confidence in character movements is an absolute key to likability, and his movements just ooze with that. And yet another brilliant character animation choice follows that, where we see the leader groveling here and he's just terrified. You can't really see their faces because of the masks, but the movements being so exaggerated are a requirement to make the viewer understand his emotion. But then they have this amazing draw over detail where you can see him shaking in fear, and then his expression changes, not on the actual model, but as an additional asset over top of him. That's creative brilliance right there, and it lasts like 3 frames. Barely enough time to see the detail in motion, but plenty of time to process the changes subconsciously. The human mind works really fast, and even though it's only mere frames, you can pick up on shape details like this, and his eyebrow raise or his eyes bulging in that time. The animation team outdid themselves with those details. And now if you're new to the channel, it's time for you to learn that I always highlight impact frames in my analysis, mainly because I love them, because everyone is so unique and they're usually really fun to showcase since they're all usually meant to be felt and not seen. So this one here on the second wave of grunts is awesome, not necessarily because it's super unique initially, but because of how it ends. You get the usual approach of the black and white alternating frames, though I do love the splotchy paint aesthetic in these, which isn't common visually, but still shows up once in a while. But as it comes out of the impact, Lighter is left with these sketchy outlines around his body as sort of a visual payoff to the power displayed there. I have seen this approach before, but not for this long, as the lines kind of like stick around and stay there until the shockwave hits and the enemies go flying in all directions. It's like you're seeing the moment where he's spent the energy, but since the payoff hasn't fully deployed yet, you have to keep this kinetic energy present somewhere on screen or risk the impact feeling even marginally less impressive. And the last thing I want to bring up is quick and simple, because while this final fight is a lot of fun, the moment that stood out to me is the shot of his footwork. It seems fairly mundane, but for the director to include this was a stroke of absolute genius. Not only are we treated to the tasty details of the dust he's kicking up, but it does so with martial footwork. Boxing, kickboxing, and MMA all utilize the same style of footwork to maximize movement, strength, and efficiency in a fight. Add that to the extra detail that they're also in a makeshift octagon, and you have this great moment showing Lighter's ability to adapt on the fly, even though that wasn't there before, and it's kind of goofy that it just showed up out of nowhere. It's a really fun detail. Having a shot focus on this is a great choice to keep the viewer invested in the fight while also adding a last minute detail about his personality and talent. If you remove that shot entirely, it effectively wouldn't change the fight at all. The pace would be all the same, but they wanted you to know more about his technique before ending the fight with some wicked haymakers and uppercuts, peppered with some gorgeous visual effects animation that just reinforces his flexibility as a fighter. That's some A+ work right there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I know this format might be a little strange for those who've been watching these for a while, even compared to the last one, because I've had to change some stuff during the editing process to make everything work. But hopefully you all enjoyed it and got some fun stuff. There was so much stuff to talk about with the techniques of animation, the rules of animation, quote unquote. Like, there are so many little details in just this 1.5 minute long short that I just couldn't help but yap for a minute. If this was like a 5 minute animation, I would be talking for over an hour. So I'm kind of glad that it was so short and concise comparatively, because other works I've done in the past that are like 15-minute long, those videos have like lasted 40+ minutes and they didn't have as much juicy detail as this one did, at least for the character animation stuff a lot of the time. Zenless has always done this really squishy animation style, and I love that because it's so expressive and flexible and you could do so much with it, and it has so much room for just variety being done in general. So I'm getting really excited about seeing more Zenless stuff. If anybody wants me to get to more Zenless animations to talk about, maybe let them be shorter, unless they're like more of a narrative thing where it's a little bit slower and the movements aren't quite as juicy, because like that's going to be a lot to talk about if I'm doing that every single time. But either way, had a great time on this video, and if there are more, definitely let me know down in the comments below, or if there's anything else from any other game or something you want me to get to, please let me know down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get to it as I always do. And otherwise, if you just enjoyed this video and you want to stick around and see other stuff I have planned for the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!